What's up, meta nerds? This video is all about the Providence-Class Carrier destroyer, also known as the Dreadnought-class command ship. It was also sometimes referred to as the Trade Federation cruiser or the Separatist Star Destroyer. It was manufactured in part by Rendali Star Drive, a company that used to build ships for the Old Republic before they were pushed out by Kuat drive yards. So Rendali manufactured it, but it was actually designed by a Quarren company, the Free DAC Volunteers Engineering Corps. DAC was the name of the Quarren homeworld, which they shared with the Mon Calamari, and there are a lot of similarities between the Providence and Mon Calamari star cruisers. It's said to have cost 125 million credits, making it more than twice expensive as a Venator-class star destroyer, even though a standard Providence-class ship was actually shorter than a Venator at 1,088 meters versus 1,155 meters. To have a real-world ship to compare that to, the longest ship in the US Navy is the USS Enterprise, an aircraft carrier, at about 341 meters, which is only about a third of the length of the Providence. But it should be pointed out that the CIS made a supersized version of this ship, naming it the Separatist Dreadnought. It had everything else in common with a Providence-class ship, including the same height and width, but this variant measured 2,177 meters long, or about as long as 725 Ewoks laying end to end. The Separatists liked to brag about their enormous size, and said that a single Dreadnought was capable of carrying out a planetary blockade, all on its own. And a really cool feature of both Mon Calamari and Quarren ships was that, if needed, the ships were designed to be able to float on water. Concerning the ship's speed, it was equipped with a hyperdrive, and had a top atmospheric speed of 1,050 kilometers per hour, which is really fast when you consider that it's only 150 kilometers slower than a Vulture droid. And for an engine, it had 3 ion drives, which received their energy from an onboard power plant in the form of a hypermatter annihilation reactor, which is the same type of reactor used in the Munificent-class star frigate. Because of this relative fast speed for a ship this large, they also had to design some forms of brakes. A pretty genius innovation was that the blast shields could pull the ion particles out of the thrusters, directing them to the front of the ship and working as a sort of braking thrust. They also had emergency booster engines, which could activate to slow the ship even more, and then another preventative measure was that it could activate air brake panels all along the ship. This ship had a massive amount of weapons, including 14 quad turbo laser cannons, 34 dual laser cannons, 12 point defense ion cannons, with 2 heavy ion cannons. It also had 102 proton torpedo tubes, and not just one, but 8 different tractor beam projectors. This gave it more than enough weaponry to take on a Venator-class or a Victory-class star destroyer. And the point defense ion cannons on their own generated the same amount of heat as a 4.8 megaton bomb. It took a crew of 600 to operate, and much like the Requisite-class light destroyer, the Providence was commanded via a forward-facing tower. This forward position made the Providence easier to navigate around a planet than its competitors, the Venator or the Victory-class. Another insane feature of the Providence-class carrier destroyer is just how many droids and vehicles it could carry. It could carry up to 1.5 million battle droids, 8 C-9979 landing craft, 160 MTTs, 120 Vulture droids, and 120 droid tri-fighters. Of course, the CIS could change the complement depending on what the campaign needed. It was introduced in the year 22 BBY, right at the beginning of the Clone Wars. The reason why there are so many different sizes for the Providence, because the very first versions were just updated versions of the Rendali Star Drive Dreadnought. Once the Quarren joined the CIS movement, they were working off of a license deal for Rendali, and throughout the Clone Wars, they kept making upgrades to different features and the overall size. The Quarren were eventually responsible for building all the Providence-class destroyers, and they fulfilled these orders on their colonized world of Palmant. The ship quickly proved itself in battle, and the CIS High Command definitely took notice. One of these higher-ups was General Grievous, who decided to take one of these ships, add a bunch of specialized modifications, and then renamed it the Invisible Hand. Admiral Trench went a similar route, but he took the larger version of the Providence-class, the Separatist Dreadnought, and named it the Invincible. And there are actually a couple of Providence-class ships used after the end of the Clone Wars. One was used by Geyser Delso when he tried to resist the newly formed Empire from a droid factory on Mustafar. Another Providence found its way into the Rebel Alliance fleet, and was heavily modified, including these large fins on the side, and renamed the Rebel 1. Well, that's it for its history, but you definitely want to hear these cool facts and behind-the-scenes stuff. The Providence was loosely based on the shape of a Zeppelin, and it said that they worked in some sound effects into Episode 3, so that when the Invisible Hand passes, you hear engine sounds of World War II airships. The lore history where the Quarren make different versions of the ship is a way to cover up discrepancies across the video games, TV shows, and films, each of which have slightly different Providence-class destroyers. Well, that's it for the Providence-class Carrier Destroyer. If you liked it, go ahead and hit that like button, and be sure to leave a comment down below if I missed any cool facts, or if you have a suggestion for future videos. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at MetaNerdsLore, so you can see us build Star Wars props and cosplays, along with some other cool Star Wars stuff. If you want to help support this channel, check out the description below for our Amazon store and our Patreon. And be sure to subscribe, because we're making videos like this every single day. But more important than all that, remember, never underestimate Quarren ship makers, and the Force will be with you always.